Hi friends, I only have a few minutes today, but I wanted to share another story with you. The story that I brought today is about a couple of people who live alone. It's called The Wild Girl. The Wild Girl by Chris Wormel. This is the story of a little girl and a small brown dog who lived all alone in the wilderness. The little girl had no one to brush her hair, or wash her face, or tie her shoelaces like you do, so her hair was a terrible mess, and her face was quite grubby. She had no shoelaces to tie, because she had no shoes, but her feet had tough soles that were quite used to stepping on sharp stones, so she didn't need them. The small brown dog had fleas, and I expect that the little girl did too. The little girl never went to school because, of course, there were no schools in the wilderness. She had to learn to do things for herself. The small brown dog did too. There were no stores, so they couldn't buy food. They had to hunt for it. Sometimes they caught trout. And cooked it over a little fire of twigs. They gathered berries and roots. They even ate insects. They lived in a cave high up on the side of a mountain, and from there they could look out and see far, far away, almost to the edge of the world. And in all the wide wilderness, the little girl never once saw the smoke of another fire curling up into the sky. Sometimes she called out, but she never heard a reply, save for the echo of her own voice calling back from the far mountaintops. And when the small brown dog barked, he was puzzled. There seemed to be lots of other dogs all around the mountains, but he could never see any of them. Now, on warm summer nights, the little girl and the small brown dog slept out under the stars. Then, in autumn, they gathered dry bracken and made a big nest at the back of the cave. It was cozy and snug, and mostly it was warm. But in the coldest weather, they often kept a fire burning through the night. Now, one winter day, the little girl and the small brown dog were collecting firewood when they came upon tracks in the snow. Big tracks. Bear tracks. Tracks that were heading toward the cave. They followed the tracks, and when they reached the cave, the small brown dog began to growl. But the bear had gone. And inside they found the bracken nest was squashed flat. The small brown dog began to growl again. He could smell bear. They were certain the bear would come back. And it did. That night, there was a blizzard. The wind howled, and the snow began to pile up in drifts outside the cave. And as the little girl and the small brown dog watched the storm, they saw a great, dark shape coming up the mountainside. And soon the shape filled the mouth of the cave. The bear would have come right in, but the little girl and the small brown dog barred the way. This was their cave, and no one could take it from them, not even a bear. They would fight for it. The bear could easily have brushed them aside with a paw, but it didn't. It looked down at them with strange, sad eyes, and then turned and left the cave. The small brown dog barked, and the little girl cried out in triumph and threw a snowball at the bad old bear as it disappeared into the stormy night. And then they heard a sound from the cave behind them. And creeping out from the darkest corner, behind the squashed bracken nest, came a tiny bear cub. The little girl realized that the bear was not a bad bear after all, just a mother bear looking for her cub. She dropped her spear and ran out into the blizzard, calling after the mother bear. But she was gone, and the falling snow had covered her tracks. After a while, it stopped snowing. The wind broke up the clouds, and the moon shone down on the wide, lonely wilderness. There was no sign of the mother bear. The little girl turned and trudged back up to the cave. The snow had drifted deep, too deep for short legs, and she carried the small brown dog under one arm and the tiny cub under the other. And who should they find waiting by the cave but the mother bear? That winter, the cave high up on the mountainside was the snuggest, warmest place in all the wide wilderness. But by the spring, they all had fleas. All right, thanks very much for listening. As always, I hope you're doing well, and I hope that we talk again soon. Take care.